All right, I'm here on a windy day in Scotland. I mean, we get a lot of breeze from time to time, but today it's pretty intense. So I'm not going to try to walk around. I found believe it or not, a relatively sheltered portion of the field that I normally walk in, and it's still pretty windy. So hopefully you can hear me over the wind. What I want to talk to you today about is we've got nations all over the world shutting down huge portions of their economy, locking everybody down in their homes to try to defeat this virus, and that brings potentially frightening economic times. Because in the world's economic system, we got people who are losing their jobs, people going on furlough. We may end up with businesses going out of business, and who knows what all is going to happen. Because it's really hard when you tell people they can't move around. Economies just grind to a halt. So in the world system, in the natural, this is a scary time. The good news for us as believers is that we have access to the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is not a natural economic system, it's a supernatural economic system. And I know a lot of people get a little bit all bent out of shape, especially some Christians and believers, when you start talking about money and God, because the truth is there are some unscrupulous ministers out there who manipulate people and try to get rich off from it. But really all they're doing is they're moving the mammon system into the church world, and it's really not the kingdom of God. The beauty of the kingdom of God is that God provides means for us to prosper in all aspects of our life, both financially and in our health and our relationships. I mean, everything across the board, with favor with other people. God provides His kingdom so that we can prosper. And with the kingdom of God, we can prosper even financially without the risk of getting into selfishness or succumbing to the love of money. So you can have money even though you don't love money. As a matter of fact, you can be flat out broke and in debt and still have the love of money, because you're looking to money as your solution instead of looking to God. And with the kingdom of God, actually, the only way that you can prosper in the kingdom of God is to be generous. God blesses our generosity when we give in generously in faith, in line with His promises. And we can even look back all the way to the Old Testament. There's a proverb that says, "There is one who scatters yet increases more, and there is one who withholds more than right, but it leads to poverty." I love the way the New Living Translation, that was from the the New King James Version, but I love how the New Living Translation renders that. That's Proverbs 11:24, by the way. The New Living Translation says it this way: "Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything." I mean, that's just to the point, cut and dry. And that's the way it works in the kingdom of God. And I also love the very next verse in Proverbs. It says this: it says, "The generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself." In the kingdom of God, it's through our generosity that we prosper. I tell people that the reality is that when Lisa and I were coming out on the mission field and we're trying to figure out how to raise funds for Scotland, in the end what we ended up doing was giving our way to Scotland. We gave generously, we gave in line with God's promises, and we watched Him bring back to us the funds we needed to go on mission with Him. And whatever God's called you to do in your life, it may not be that you're what we would call a professional missionary or a minister. Maybe that may not be your primary job, but the job that you have, you can see increase in that job and see favor in that work and see your personal finances blessed when you learn the ways of God's kingdom and align your giving and give in faith with those ways. Jesus said it this way. He said, "Give and it will be given back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing will people put back into your bosom." You will get back the same measure. The measure that you use to give is the measure that you'll get back. And the challenge we had, Lisa and I, as believers for the longest time, is that we gave in ignorance. We were very generous, but we never really saw anything come back to us in any way that we could connect to our giving. We sowed a lot of seed financially, but we never seemed to harvest much. And it wasn't until God started showing us his ways and how his kingdom worked, and we adjusted our ways to line up with God's ways, and we started operating in kingdom ways, that we started to see a big difference in our finances. So if you're faced with some frightening economic times, this is the time to learn God's kingdom ways in the areas of your finances. You know, if things potentially around the world could get worse, I'm praying they don't. I am believing that we're going to come out of this whole thing healthier than we were when we started. I'm praying that we're going to be more prosperous than we were when we started. But I do know that I know how to operate in kingdom ways. So we're tying into the supernatural kingdom of God. And when we operate in God's kingdom ways, we can actually plant during a famine and receive a big harvest. Isaac did exactly that. He planted when there was a drought, when there was a famine, and everybody else was pulling back and withdrawing and shrinking and reducing the size of their crops. He planted a big crop and harvested 100-fold. It's entirely possible to harvest in time of famine. It's entirely possible to thrive financially when everybody else around you is struggling financially. The secret is to learn God's kingdom ways and line up your ways with his ways. You know, that's what I talk about in the Rejecting Mammon book that I wrote. I just share what we learned. I share the principles that Lisa and I applied. I share the promises that we stood on in faith and believed, and I showed how we received when we gave as a result of our giving. And I also share some of the things that we did wrong, because quite frankly, we had to figure this out through trial and error. We had some good teachers. We had the word, and we studied it, and we were praying, and we were doing all those things, and yet we still made mistakes. The beauty of it is, you know, just because we sometimes gave and didn't see results that we were expecting, it didn't mean we stopped giving. It meant we took it back to God and said, okay, what did we miss? What did we do wrong? And he showed us. And I share those lessons that we learned with you. So I encourage you, check out our book, Rejecting Mammon, How to See Results from Your Giving. And you'll learn how to be generous and prosper as a result of your generosity. Because really, we're all blessed to be a blessing. And when we are blessing others and we're exercising God's heart and we're showing that heart of God to other people, that's when we see true prosperity in our lives. So I just encourage you, you do not have to struggle financially in this time. And it may take you a while to learn. I mean, it took Lisa and I a few months to kind of get our heads around this and actually start to see results, because honestly, we didn't have somebody with that book that kind of explained it for us. We had to go figure it out. But I'm hoping that I can accelerate your process of prosperity by checking out the book. Anyway, I'm all distracted by the wind, so I apologize about that. I hope you have a wonderful day. We will talk to you next time. Enjoy. Bye-bye.